Okay, and we do the music. Can you hear the music?
I can hear the music.
Excellent. I love it. My name is Kimberly Stewart-Lucas of Warrior Mamas and Absolutely Divine Events, and this is another episode of Dish with the Doulas. Thank you for joining us. We're going to let this music play and jam. You want to jam with me?
You're on your own with that one.
Music written by Michael Woodman. And this time I'll try to fade. Let's fade instead of just cutting off Kimberly. All right, I'll pause it. Okay, so welcome to Dish with the Doulas. Today, this is a long time coming. This is someone that we met. Actually, this is our first time seeing each other eye to eye.
Yeah, interacting with each other.
But we met on Instagram, I think last year, maybe 2018.
It may have been before that. It may have been 2 years ago.
So today I am joined by my guest, Kimble, and she's in Charlotte, and I'm in Georgia, and we're able to do this, and this is awesome.
Yes, it's nice.
Welcome to Dish with the Doulas, and thank you for being here, and thank you for watching the episodes and the feedback that you provide. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. You know, I've been rocking with you from the beginning, from episode 1, season 1.
I love it. This is episode 2. This is episode 3, season 2. So I'm grateful that we can still do this. And I know last year I had contacted you about being on the show and trying to figure out maybe when you're in town, we can get together at the studio and all that. And even earlier, I think this year, we kind of talked about it a little bit. And then, you know, the bottom falls out, not really falls out, but things change. And I'm not able to go to the studio, and, you know, traveling is limited. So we're still able to get together and do this interview.
Yes, technology has really saved the day for us.
I love it. Okay, so I just want to make sure I was recording, because that would be so awful if we did a whole conversation and I wasn't recording.
That's all right. We can do it again and still have fun.
So I want to know your story. I know that you are a certified doula. I know that you have an agency, a doula agency, that you are a trainer, that you are a mentor with the National Black Doula Association, that you know the business of birth. How did you even get to the place of where you are? I know that you're mom and that you're wife. And so tell me your story about how you became a doula and a trainer.
Yeah, I am a mom. I have 4 children. And they were each born differently. So I had 3. I had one that was with an epidural, with a very difficult, with a forceps delivery, with horrible mistreatment.
Is that your first?
Yes, my first one.
Oh, okay.
I've always just kind of been into the natural realm and wanted to do things, I guess what was considered alternatively. So I was using a birth plan before birth plans were even a thing. So this was back 2004. I showed up. I'd done all my research. I was prepared for an unmedicated birth, and that's what I wanted to do. But I made every single mistake that new first-time parents do, which is, you know, showing up to the hospital at the very first sign of that very first contraction. But I had my birth plan, which was several pages long, that began with an introductory paragraph, the kind that you hand to the provider.
Like, are you a Libra?
No, I'm not.
Okay, go ahead.
But my provider looked at that and she threw it on the floor, and she's like, "What is this? Is this something you printed off the internet?"
She did not throw it on the floor, though.
She threw it on the floor. She said, "Stuff like that's what prevents me from doing my job."
Okay. I take a pause. I'm sorry. That's drastic. Okay, go ahead.
Oh yeah, it was. And people think these things don't happen. This is the treatment that you get. And it can happen to anyone. It doesn't matter your level of education, your level of income. It doesn't matter how assertive you can be. You can experience mistreatment at any level. So yeah, she threw my birth plan on the floor, and my plan was to do unmedicated. I was doing the contractions. I had them, they were all in my back. And the nurse said, oh, you think these are bad? Your water hasn't even broken. And so then that put the fear in me. Like I was like, I can't do more than this. And I'm like, you're telling me it's going to get worse? And so that's when I was kind of, I was scared. And
Eventually, it shifted happened.
it did. And I said, okay, well, they kept asking me if I wanted the epidural all this time. And at that point I said, yeah, okay, yes, give me the epidural.
Mm-hmm.
I had already gone from 7 o'clock that evening until about 3 o'clock that afternoon
Wow.
without an epidural. And this is with back labor, which I don't know if you're familiar with. Back labor is when you have the contractions in your back instead of in the front.
I've never identified my labor where it is. It's just I call them sensations.
Okay, you have
I
your
never really felt like where it was. I just felt it.
everywhere, yeah. Well, they're in your back,
Okay.
and the progress is very, very slow. And it's just, it feels, the sensations are a little bit stronger with back labor.
In your back, okay.
And I had read about doulas. I knew about doulas, but I thought that it was just something extra. I was like, they're not gonna just stick me in a room and not tell me what to do. I was like, I'm not wasting money on a doula. I'm not wasting money on a childbirth education class. I was like, they're gonna tell me. So I didn't spend any money on those things. And then when I was in there and they told me that I was saying I should have gotten that doula. I wish I had gotten a doula. And a lot of people say that. I wish I had a doula. So the last couple hours I did with an epidural, and the doctor comes in, shakes her head. No, these contractions aren't close enough. And she kind of just made me feel like I wasn't doing
You
it
were
right.
progressing.
Yeah, I wasn't, like, she seemed disappointed in me. Like, oh no, these are not close enough together. You're not doing this right. And she's like, we're gonna give you something to help with that. And I'm like, well, what are you gonna give me? She's like, oh, just some medication in your IV. And I'm like, well, what is it? It's something that's gonna help. And it was kind of like, you're not communicating with me and telling me what.
Like, you won't understand what I'm gonna tell you. You won't understand anyway. So
yeah, I can't know the name of the drug, what the side effects. Like, can I participate in my own birth? And it was just kind of like, you step aside, I'm going to handle this. And so it was very, it was a difficult delivery. I did it, but it was hard. It was a 4-step delivery with a difficult recovery. And then my second one, I said, okay, I'm going to research everything I can. I learned everything I could about childbirth. I read the books. I did the exercises. I was mentally prepared. I drew out my affirmations. And as anyone will tell you, no 2 labors are alike. The second one, totally different from the first one. My first one was long, agonizing back labor. My second one, I didn't make the same mistakes. I got a midwife this time. And I didn't show up at the first contraction. And I was prepared to deliver on hands and knees and not being on my back in stirrups. So I get in there.
The doctors and who's down there, like, that only benefits them.
Yeah, it's comfortable for them.
Comfortable for them.
Yeah. This time I changed it. I educated myself, and I was going to do things differently. And I was going to be my own doula.
And you became your own advocate.
Yeah. Well, that was my plan. So I walked in to the labor and delivery unit, and they, the contraction hit me at the front desk. And that everyone just dropped, ran, got me into a room, because I arrived in transition. And I was on my hands and knees, and they were trying to call for my midwife, and my midwife wasn't getting there fast enough. And they're like, we might need to get a resident. I'm like, wait, a resident? I was like, no, where's my midwife? And they're like, we're trying to get her. And they were getting a resident, and they're telling me to not push and hold it in. And I'm like, I can't hold this in.
Oh, God.
So I do remember the midwife finally got there, and she says, I can't deliver you like this. You got to flip over.
I can't deliver you like this. Okay.
And I was like, but you're a midwife. And she's like, yeah, but you have to be on your back. I can't do it like this. And I was like, I'm not moving. And she instructed the other people in the room to grab me and flip me over.
No.
I was not moving.
Isn't that called assault?
I held on to the bed rail. I held on to my husband's neck. I was like, I am not flipping over.
It was,
and
oh my God.
They were restraining me. They were pulling on my arms, and I had the death grip on him. I was like, I'm not. And so they had me twisted. I think my bottom half of my body may have been flipped over, but the top half was still
Where
vice
you
grip
want to
on my
be.
husband. And yeah, very violent delivery. And it was at that moment where I said, this hospital thing just isn't for me.
This is the
This is
same hospital as the first, correct?
no different hospital. I
Different
had a
hospital.
midwife instead of
I
a
had the
doctor. I had a
midwife.
midwife. I thought I did everything right, but it still was a very difficult delivery. And so for
Was
the
that
third
child
one,
born vaginally?
yes,
Okay.
it's still being vaginally.
Okay.
And the third one, I finally said it. I'm not going to a hospital. I did my home birth. I was going to have a midwife, had a doula, got my water pool ready. Everything was ready to go. Laws are a little bit different in here, and my babies are all back to back. So I had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I was about to have another one.
Okay.
And I called my parents lived across the border in South Carolina. And I said, listen, for this home birth, I'm going to take your house. You guys are going to come to our house and watch the kids, and I'm going to deliver there.
Yeah.
But they had other plans. So the day I went into labor, they thought they had more time than they had. And I called them. I said, okay, I think today is going to be the day. And they said, well, we just saw you. You didn't look like you were going to be in labor. And I'm like, what does that look like? And I was like, well, I am. And they said, oh, well, we took a trip to Florida.
They were not even in the States. Oh my God.
And so
Woo!
we're scrambling, trying to find somebody to watch my 1 and 3-year-old. We never left them before. And I was saying, well, it's nighttime. Maybe I can slip out, have this baby, and be back before they wake up. Yeah, you see, you're a veteran mom. You know that never works.
That doesn't work.
They have radar. They know as soon as you leave, they have radar that goes off. Yeah.
The milk is, wait, are you still nursing at that time?
Yes, I nursed
The
for
milk
13
is going
years
further
straight.
away. Look, my children knew when I was getting closer back to the house when I was still breastfeeding.
Yes,
I would be like, are you on Riverdale Road? And I would get my, he's like, are you close by? Because they're flipping out.
Yes, they know. And so at some point I'm laboring in the water and the phone rings and my husband says, just push it out. The babies are crying. We got to get back. And so if you ever been in labor, you can't be in labor and mom at the same time. Yeah. One of those is going to shut down.
Mom for the one that's about to come and make its way, but to tend to the others that you may have, I've never, mine either weren't here or they were asleep.
Right. It's hard to be both.
It's hard to be. That part I don't know.
At that point, my labor stopped and it was not progressing anymore. I just mentally was checked out because I wanted to be home with my babies that were crying for me.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't even want to do this baby thing anymore. And I just said, I apologize for everyone for wasting their time. I was like, I don't want to have this baby right now. And I proceeded to slide under the water. I was like, I'm drowning myself. I'm done with this. And that's when I felt my doula's hands. She reached into the pool, got my head out and laid it on the side of the tub. Yeah. And she came to me with a little snack. And she's like, let's just talk. You don't want to have this baby right now? Okay, we'll just talk. And she's asking me, what's bothering you? What is it? And so all the emotions that had built up in me about every time I have to do something difficult, I can't depend on anyone. I was like, yeah, I took it back all the way to like 2nd or 3rd grade. I was like, I fell off my bike and my parents weren't there for me. I'm just kind of like all the emotions.
Everything comes up in labor.
Yes.
Everything.
Yeah.
All the memories, all the trauma, all the joy, all the pain. You never know where you store things. There's something about that, Tony Walk calls it a cocktail of hormones that are happening that taps into every part of who you are as a person.
It does. And you can't prepare for it because you don't know what feelings you're going to feel and what thoughts you're going to feel in that moment.
Just be ready.
Yeah. So I just had this overwhelming sense of I'm having to do this alone. Like, and I wasn't alone, but I felt very alone. I was like, I really don't have anybody that I can count on. that my babies are there crying, and I'm here having a baby, and it's just kind of like I'm having to do something very, very hard,
Yes.
and there's no one here to help me. And so I'm crying. It's just a mess. And the doula's like, okay, we got that out the way now. Let's have this baby.
Let's get to work.
Yeah. And so by then my parents had got back from Florida. They were driving. I don't know how
Okay,
fast
so they were in Florida, but were making their way back.
They made their way back. Like they touched the border and turned around. And shortly after that, we got the phone call that they were there with the kids. And at that point, I could finally relax. And the sun was coming up. I remember it was a beautiful sunrise. And this was the morning of Michael Jackson's funeral. So I could hear the music in the background.
Oh, wow.
And then I just remember my baby was born that day, that morning.
Wow. So it wasn't until you got centered that certain things came into position for you to be able to, I feel like you created that moment. You and your doula.
I didn't create that moment. My doula created
your
that.
Doula helped you. It was in coming together, and all of your needs are met for you to be in a position to where you can deliver that baby in a beautiful way. Yeah. Oh, wow. And so
your
number
head
4.
has to be in the right spot. Your head, my head was gone. My head was back with my babies crying. It was not in the moment. Yeah. And you can't have a baby that way. Yeah. So once I knew that those things were taken care of, and then I could focus on having this number 3, that's when labor progressed.
Wow. And so how many years between your 3rd and your 4th?
Okay, so my first 3, I said, we're back to back. And I thought I was done. And I mentioned, I told you I breastfed for 13 years straight. So I was still breastfeeding, and my 3rd one was about to go off to kindergarten, and I was like, okay, she's cutting down on the nursing, and I'm saying, okay, this is gonna be it. I was like, I'm finally gonna see the light at the end of my tunnel. I'm trying to figure out what my next career steps are gonna be, and I'm like, they're gonna all 3 of them be in school at the same time, and I'm gonna have my days back. Positive pregnancy test.
Look at life. Look at life.
Well, not to mention with my 3rd one, I didn't find out I was pregnant until I was 6 months along. It was complete shock because I had been breastfeeding all this time. And I find out I'm gonna have a baby in 3 months. And
wait, okay, back up, stop, hold, pause. We're not getting to number 4 yet. On number 3, you didn't know you were pregnant until you were 6 months. Okay. And so, I'm just processing it in my brain, sorry. Okay.
Oh, that's how I had to do it. I had to process it too.
Got it. Okay, for time's sake, I'm gonna unfold that as we talk.
We hadn't even gotten to the doula stuff. Yeah, complete shock, sadness, and the thing I had to do to make.
And I still don't mean to laugh to any of that. I mean, this is a story of stories.
Oh yeah, every time I would talk about it, I would cry. But the thing that made it different was that home birth. Yes. And so it was kind of like, okay, I'm doing this again, but this is going to be totally different because it's a home birth, and I hadn't done a home birth. So number 4 comes around, complete shock. But we go, we weren't telling anybody because it was just kind of like, I can't believe this is happening again. And by then, of course, I'm advanced maternal age, so I have to do additional scans and all this stuff. And so while we're at the additional scans, we're like, I know, another girl, because my first 3 were girls. Okay. I know, it's another girl. And the technician's like, this is the strangest girl I've ever seen. Oh. And she put the camera there, and we said, that's a hot dog. You know how hot dog, I was like, it's not. And so we found out we were having a boy. And so that's the thing that made this pregnancy different. It was like, finally, I could be happy about something because it's not going to repeat what we had already been doing. Okay. And my 4th delivery was in a hospital with a midwife. Okay. And it was my best delivery because that midwife was familiar with home birth. And I got in there and I said, I don't want anything. I don't want an IV. I don't want anyone to touch me. And she's told everyone, just leave her alone. She knows what she's doing. And so again, I arrived in transition. They gave me a room. I was delivering on my standing up in a squatting position, and it was delivery on my terms.
Mm.
Um,
You knew
that's
what you
delivery.
wanted and what you did not want, and you again spoke and advocated for yourself. Your support stood in the gap for you to
Mhm.
protect you, and best birth.
Yes, my midwife switched to doula role. She told everyone, "Leave me alone, hands off. I'm doing it,"
Mm.
and I did it.
So when did you? When did the light come on that, okay, with these experiences that I've had, I want to be the doula for someone else?
Once you have 4 kids, everyone and their mama, when they have a question about childbirth,
Coming to you.
pregnancy, raising kids, they all call me. So everyone's always calling me, asking me about stuff, and because I had done all this research preparing for my own birth, so I knew all about all this information. Um, and so it was, my mother was reading one of those, I think it was an Essence magazine. I think it was
Mm-hmm.
Article Essence about Erica Badu and how she
Mm-hmm.
was at the time going into her doula work. She's, midwife now, but at the time
Mm-hmm.
she was starting off in her doula career. And my mom called me. She says, "This sounds like something this sounds like you." And you know me, never been one to listen to my mother, but this time I was like, I'm gonna listen to my mother this time.
Yeah.
And so I started looking into it, and I started pursuing, because now before my 4 kids, I was working as an executive in the newspaper industry. By then, newspapers had tanked, and that was not the industry to kind of get into, and I was having to recreate myself.
Exactly.
I had been out of the workforce for almost 10 years, so
But
I'm
you
like,
went to school for business and marketing, so
right.
you took what you knew from that, your experience in journalism and just executive management and all that and business, and married it with being a doula.
Right. Well, I wasn't in journalism, but I was in marketing. So
Marketing, that's
yes,
right.
I was
At a
able
paper.
to,
Okay.
yeah,
Gotcha.
I was marketing for the newspaper, and I was able to pull my passion, which was
Mm-hmm.
doula work, birth work, health, wellness, all that together, and marry that with business background. And I
Right.
was able to create a successful doula practice.
Excellent. Well, tell me about your company. Tell me about the name. Now, it's Mine RT. Is that the name of it?
Yes,
Tell me
minority
about the name, where that came from.
Well, originally I was T-Jack Doula Services.
Okay.
T-Jack were the first initials of everyone in my family
Okay.
before I had all these kids. um, and so that was originally what it was. And I was I was solo working in Charlotte,
Okay.
but I became a very successful doula with a lot of more clients than I could manage.
Mm-hmm.
And I was also traveling as a doula trainer.
Okay.
And in order for me to still be able to support the families and be free to travel and train, I needed to bring more people aboard
You
to
have to
my
duplicate
team.
yourself. Yeah.
Yes.
On
And so
board.
that's when I created Mine RT Doula Company.
Okay.
So Minority Doula Company is comprised
There you
of,
go. Wait. I've been saying it the whole time. I was like, okay, Mine RT. Mine RT. Mine. Okay, thank you. This whole time I was like,
yeah.
it's saying something. Mine RT. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So it's comprised of 4 doulas
Okay.
that we are all doulas of color.
Okay.
And we fill a specific niche in our area.
Yeah.
Even though we support families of any racial background or ethnicity, we have a special competency in serving and meeting the unique challenges of Black women in particular,
Yes.
Black and Brown women. We have Spanish-speaking doulas, and we are able to fill gaps that is commonly not being filled by other doulas in our area.
Okay. So
Um,
being a doula and then to training. So you've obviously you've been a doula for other mothers, for other families, but going into the training, how did that come into being?
Well, so I've been, like I said, it's a very successful doula practice for
Mm-hmm.
for years, supported over 100 families. And I advertise a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and marketing is my background. So that's
Okay.
what I'm good at.
Yes.
By doing that, I began to get the attention of some of the major doula organizations.
Oh, okay.
Were constantly in my inbox, and one of them finally just asked me to train for him.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, she's like, I've been stalking you for a while.
I've been watching you.
Yeah. And so I did begin training. And but like I said, I was being pulled away from my families. And even though I'm comfortable being on call and kind of looking at someone and saying, oh yeah, I think I can probably sneak away this weekend. You're going to have a few more weeks. That doesn't mean my client's always comfortable with that, knowing that I'm traveling during my on-call time or that I'm close to her due date. And so I don't want my clients to feel like, to be anxious about me not being in town. And
Exactly.
so I always was having my backups there, and I don't go on Facebook and ask for any random backup. I
Yeah.
was
You have
using some
specific people
very,
in place.
yes. And I know a lot of my clients hired me because they wanted a Black doula. So I made sure that I had my pool of doulas that I trusted that could step in and fill in for me if needed. And then at that point, I didn't want my clients to feel like they were getting backup as second best, because they weren't. The doulas I work with are the best.
And recently you won an award. Tell me about that.
We did. We just got named one of Charlotte's best doulas by Expertise. And I'm
Congratulations.
excited about that because mine RT doulas, even though I've been around for a long time, mine RT doulas has only been around less than a year. And
Oh,
so in order, the fact that they recognized us so early on was just an honor, because a lot of work went into that. But
And you
I'm very,
great
very
work.
proud of my team. My team
Yeah.
is, they're all experienced doulas. They have advanced training. They are the best of the best. It's not just some random, oh, you guys are, you're a new doula looking for clients, or you need some certification births, come join my agency. I'm very particular about who I put on my team, and
As
they
you
are
should be.
all doulas that I would use myself, not just
Exactly.
someone that fills a space.
And that says everything. And that's why you won an award, because you're very intentional in your partnership, in your collaborations, and who you have on your agency. And
Mm-hmm.
like you said, if you would use them, that says everything.
Yeah.
You're just not looking for just some doulas. You're looking for those that are in alignment with your philosophy, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
we have a similar style. We
Mhm.
genuinely like each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
We communicate with each other. And they, like I said, they're very experienced. So when they run into something, they can handle it. And I know that I can be out of town and not have to worry that they've got it. And when they do need something, they know, okay, this is where I need to reach out to someone. They know when to reach out to me.
Exactly.
And so I really like working with them because I don't have to do hand holding, that
Hmm.
I can trust them to do
That
it.
matters.
And
You can be
then we
present
do
wherever you are.
yeah, and we doula each other. So when we have a difficult birth, or
Mhm.
especially operating in under these uncertain times where we're like, my hands are tied, I'm having to do virtual support, we can reach out to each other and kind of encourage each other.
And so what's your balance now of, what would you say percentage wise, of how much you are doing your training, and then how much are you still doing family clients, or is that strictly for your agency?
Beginning of this year, I had really slowed down. So
Okay.
my back isn't what it used to be. And so
Mhm.
hanging over in the birth tubs was, I was trying to phase that out a little bit. So I was only taking the occasional client, maybe the repeat client that came back.
Mhm.
Um, and I was doing that at first. And I did take a couple clients earlier this year, but I was really trying to mostly focus on training
Okay.
and send clients to my team.
Yes.
And I was training kind of every other month kind of thing.
Okay.
Till COVID hit. And so,
Move ahead. So
yeah, so that put a little wrench in my plans.
exactly. And I'm not a doula, but I have been with a friend in that position, holding them up in water in a pool, like, Lord, please. And her putting all her weight on me. And she was tired.
For
And I was
hours.
there for her. But it was like, Lord, don't let me fall in this water and drop her.
Yeah.
So I couldn't imagine doing that like over and over and over again. So
Okay,
I
you
do
feel it
want
the
to,
next day.
huh?
You feel it the next day, and
Ooh,
you're
yeah, well, I
achy.
felt it that morning.
Yeah, you don't recover the way you used to when you're younger. So
Exactly.
I was really trying to ease up a little bit, but now I'm back in it. And because my training classes, I don't know what it's going to look like right now. So I only have
Exactly.
one class coming up, and that's
And
in
what are the
July.
dates for that? We can, let's, even though like this will be going on until, well, tell me the dates for that now.
The next one is July 17th and 18th.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
in Greenville, South Carolina.
Okay.
And we
So you're in
are,
North Carolina, but you do it in South Carolina.
it's a couple
Excellent.
hours away. This one is, I travel all over.
Okay.
But this one is, it's in South Carolina, and I'm keeping it small. So we want to
Okay.
stay within CDC guidelines. We're going to have fewer than 10 people there. We're
Okay.
going to be spaced out. And a lot of my training is not so much hands-on. It's
Gotcha.
really about the mental mind space that the doula has to have.
Excellent.
So we really focus on the theory. We talk about the philosophy.
Mhm.
We talk about the background that midwives have.
I was gonna pull up.
Obstacles.
This is perfect timing. I was gonna pull up the list right now.
Yeah, see, we
Let me
really
go to
work
my
through,
site here. Let's
we
see.
really work through our own baggage. We work through our own beliefs about birth. We talk about our own traumas. We really try to unpack our own baggage, because that's not stuff that you want to bring into someone else's birth. I don't want any of my doulas trying to heal their own traumas through someone else. And so those are the things that we cover in my training. The physical part, anyone can come and squeeze a hip.
Mhm.
That doesn't take a long time, but actually challenging your beliefs about what is doula support, what does that look like, what is truly non-judgmental support.
Exactly.
Can you handle this? What is it like when your client dies? Can you
Mm.
deal with death? Death is part of birth.
Yes,
And
it
we
is.
talk about all of these things in my training. So it's possible to do a doula training without touching each other, because the
Exactly.
touching is a very small part of what my classes are.
Is the screen showing my face or is it showing your website?
I
What
see your face and
you
my
see?
website.
You do? You see both?
I see both. Yes.
Excellent. Okay, I don't know how. You know what? I think it's my view and how I'm looking at it. Let's see. There's that. There's that. There's that. Okay, you know what? If you can see it, that's all that matters. So this is your website, trainwithkira.com. And
Mhm.
this has an outline of all the things that some of those things that you just mentioned, about your philosophy, about the psychology or physiology of birth. Um, that is a very extensive list of
Yeah,
what
it's
you
a
get in training.
2-day class. It
It's
is
two
a
days.
2-day class.
Okay, 2 days. That is awesome. So for those that want to train with Kira, go to trainwithkira.com and you can get all the information about enrolling, about all the different topics that will be covered in those 2 days. I'm going to stop sharing here and go back to this screen. Now, is it just me?
Yes, I see you. And Kimberly, I wanted
Yeah.
to say
Uh-huh.
that one of the driving forces behind why I wanted to train and why I put so much energy behind my trainings, and even if it means pulling myself away from my families,
Mm-hmm.
is that I think it's so important that there be a variety of doulas available, that the doula
Yes.
landscape look like our client landscape.
Yes.
When I was having my own children, one of the reasons I didn't have a doula is because the first one I thought it was a waste of money,
Mm-hmm.
which it wasn't. I just didn't know.
You just didn't
But I
know.
also couldn't find a Black doula. There weren't
Mm-hmm.
any. And I wanted a Black doula. I wanted a Black midwife.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, sometimes people don't understand that. You don't understand it when that you're the default. You
Mm-hmm.
don't even have to think about it. Like, oh,
Yeah.
of course my doula's going to look like me. When you actually have to seek it out, it's
Yeah.
hard.
It is hard.
And so part of the reason that I do that is I want to create doulas of all backgrounds
Yes.
out there for all families. I can't be everyone's doula. So what I do is I duplicate myself throughout. And it's not
Exactly.
duplicating me, but having other doulas that are culturally aware
Yes.
um, throughout. And that is something that we discuss in my classes.
And I want to talk about with you, and actually, I would love for you to come back. So, one of my episodes, I would like to do a Zoom like we're doing, but it's going to be multiple boxes. There are going to be a couple of new moms that I know they're expecting this summer, some other midwives and doulas that I know. And I would love for you to come back if you're interested to have the conversation that we can kind of have now. I'm still good on time about what's going on now. And I know you and I talked. I was doing that, I think, a IG Live, and you had shared with me what you're having to do now during a pandemic, during COVID-19
Mhm.
times, of having to doula, you said from the car, and having to, because of the limitations of, doulas, or not even sometimes partners and spouses being allowed into the room. Can you speak about what you're doing now and what you would like to see be done?
Yeah, so we prep our clients very, very well. We
Mhm.
we basically teach them how to be the partners, how to be the doula when
Mhm.
we can't be there. So
Okay.
we still are going in and doing home visits. Well, let me take that back. We do our Zoom preparation
Gotcha.
over Zoom.
Okay.
So we're talking about doula tools. We're showing pictures. We're giving instructions about how to physically support.
Mhm.
When our clients are in labor, then we do the home visit. We go to the home and we are laboring with them there because we don't want them doing like I did and showing up with
Going
that
at the
first
first
contraction.
time. Exactly. Mhm.
So we are there laboring with them at home and we do it, we cut it close.
Mhm.
Um,
As
then we
much as you
follow,
can.
uh,
As much as you can together at home. Yes.
then we follow them to the hospital and we labor in the parking lot. And we cut it really close.
Wow.
Um, and then at that point our doula will go in, get the wheelchair, we can push them in,
Mhm.
but when it's time to go up to L&D, they are on their own.
The parking
um,
lot is zone free. You're able to be there.
we
It's
can
not
go
it's
to
a
the parking lot.
physical building.
We can even roll them in the wheelchair to the front desk where they
Okay,
check
so
in.
you can enter the hospital. You just can't go
Yeah,
in the room with them and be
we
in the
can't go
hallways and
up
things
to
like that.
labor and delivery, right?
Okay.
And so at that point they've got it by then. We're still available by phone, but through
Mhm.
video. Sometimes the Wi-Fi is a little spotty in those
Yeah,
hospitals, but
it
we
does
do it. We're
happen.
there. And we're right there with them emotionally through the phone coaching at that point. But it's
Okay.
hard. It's like being a doula with your hands tied behind your back.
Hmm.
And
But you're
so
doing what
much,
you can, and even, certain policies I'm sure are changing, but you're doing what you can up until the point where you're not able to. I love
right,
that of just being present, how you can be present.
right,
That is critical. That's critical
right.
to me.
Our voices are are our strongest tools at that point, and we
Exactly.
really do try to coach them over the phone or through video the best way that we can.
Excellent. So are you familiar with, this is going into a whole, we could probably have a 2-hour episode probably, but
We can. I can
are you
talk about
familiar
this
with the
all day.
document, The Emergence of Life?
No, I'm not.
I'm going to share it with you. It is basically the metaphysical perspective of birth. So when I use words like facilitator or matrix or guardian or vessel, it's basically looking at, we know the traditional stages, the first stage, active stage, transitional, things like that.
Mhm.
But this is, like I said, the metaphysical perspective. So it takes that same model and of course the same order of what happens in birth, but puts a spin on it. So like you were saying, being a mom and being in labor at the same time, because the mom is going into a journey to go get her baby, and
Right.
she has to feel that she can leave
Hmm.
herself to do what she has to do in this other realm. And so you have different partners. So when you mentioned your doula that got you out the water, you know being a facilitator, or the midwife that you had for your fourth birth, and advocating that don't touch her. That I think is the Guardians. I'm gonna share it with you. It's an 8-page document. It is amazing. But as you were telling and sharing your testimonies, I was just seeing these different roles. Of
Hmm.
course, you as the mother of the vessel, but then your midwife and your doula, they hold the space for
They
you.
do. One of
And
my
I know there's a
favorite
difference between the
quotes is
two.
one of my favorite quotes is doulas are the guardians of the threshold.
There you go.
And we are.
There you
That's
go.
what we do.
And that's Dish with the Doulas. And I know not every time I have a doula on, but the way I see it, my daughter was like, "You're having a doula on?" I said, "I've had doulas on. Not every guest is a doula, but the way I see doulas, in general in life, are women that assist and love on women that need that assistance. And so whether it was my chiropractor or whether it was a therapist, I know that there are technical and certified doulas, but that's what the show is. And so I said, Sarah, I'm having a doula on today.
Well, doulas are anybody who helps someone through any kind of difficult transition. And you talked about that last week because I listened
Right.
to you. You're talking
A
about divorce doulas.
divorce
There are
doulas,
people,
abortion doulas.
yes.
It's, and I think we need to look at that. Postpartum doulas. I know you don't train for that, correct? You don't do postpartum.
I do not train for that, but we offer that through my agency.
Okay. So, but because we all need the assistance. And even more so now, a friend of mine I went to high school with just announced that him and his wife had a baby. I found this awesome. And actually, I found this image maybe at the beginning, maybe March, when things started shifting towards the end of March. And it was how to support a family and a mom during COVID-19, because we just can't go to each other's houses freely and so forth. So it was like, have food delivered, drop things off at the front door, ask her how she, and this is really anytime, pandemic or not, ask her how she's doing. Focus on her, because when you focus on mom, you're focusing on the baby. Like, I don't know how we got that mixed up.
Yeah, and that's one of the exercises we do in our class. We talk about that.
Exactly. So share with me anything. How can people get in touch with you personally, with your company? Share all the things that you want to share with the audience about your doula agency.
Yeah, there's so much. So, so first there is my doula training, which is Train with Kira, which you already mentioned. And like I said, I travel throughout the country with those. Normally I would have my class schedule posted on my website with all the locations and dates. Right now I just have the one. And that's in Greenville, South Carolina, July 17th and 18th. Space is limited on that one, intentionally. My classes typically are overflowing. So having to really cut back, it's different for me.
Changing everything. Yep.
And I was mentioning about how important it is I put my money where my mouth is. It is important for our doulas to be diverse. So I do offer scholarships for my doula training. And it's particularly for people of color, people who speak multiple backgrounds, plus size doulas, because not every doula is real thin. So anything that makes you unique, that diversifies the landscape, is what that scholarship is for.
I love that.
So that's doula training. My doula agency, Minority Doulas, we service Charlotte, North Carolina, in 50 miles radius. Our website is charlottedoulaco.com. And we offer prenatal, we offer childbirth education, postpartum doula training, not doula training, postpartum doula services, birth services, all of it. And then and we're starting, as soon as this COVID thing's over, we'll be offering placenta encapsulation. I also do mentoring through the National Black Doulas Association, and that information is also available on my website at trainwithkira.com. And that is where I support doulas in building a brand new business or elevating an existing business. I work with all experience levels on that.
And fingers crossed, I've reached out to them and they actually responded back. So hopefully next week, fingers crossed, you'll see episode 4 with the National Black Doulas Association. National Black Doulas Association, correct? Not quite.
National Black Doulas Association.
With Tracy. So hopefully that will manifest. We've made connections. They've showed interest. So we're just trying to figure out a date to do our interview. And I'm happy about that. So this whole thing has come up organically. Like, even, like I said, I think the timeliness of certain things have just kind of brought up. You saw the first episode of this season. So I shared my wish list.
It's you.
It's just me. And as the list is unfolding, like literally it's organically happening. Like, okay, now I'll call someone. So I've had certain calls out there, and certain certain people are kind of just lined up, and we're just figuring out the time to do it. But this medium, I just love how we're able to do this. And is there any other information? I don't know if I cut you off. I'm sorry if I did.
No, you didn't cut me off. That was it. It was doula training.
Let's first of all show our bowls, our matching bowls. So
I'm bringing back the dish with the doulas. Got to keep the dish in there.
Because I almost was not going to do this, because when I saw her bowl match my bowl, I said, okay.
And I got my fancy bread for my soup.
You're dipping. I'm sipping.
I do both.
So, Kira, I thank you so much for being on Dish with the Doulas. This, like I said, was a long time coming. I have been looking forward to speaking with you. I love, clearly, like, I'm not that I didn't know, I read your website about, what you do, but knowing that marketing and business is like what you went to school for, were doing before this, it shows, because like I said, the consistency of your messaging and your branding is amazing. And
thank you.
So I understand why you just received that award for your agency, because and like you said, in less than a year, you guys have been around for a year or so?
The agency's been around less than a year. Like I said, we've all been working independently for many years, but the agency's been around for less than a year.
It makes sense. I get it. And the fact that you're not just teaching doulas about being doulas, but teaching them how to have a successful doula business.
Yes.
That is important.
So many people struggle with heart work because people who are doulas naturally are givers, and we do that all the time, even to our own detriment. And it's so important that you have a way to sustain yourself and your family, because one way to get your whole family to hate doula work and your doula hobby is by taking you from your family and you coming back with nothing to show for it. There are times where I've missed my son's first day of kindergarten. I've missed school plays. I missed, my daughter was sick and almost had to go to the hospital and I was not here. So doulas give up. It's a big, big sacrifice.
It's a calling. It's a ministry. The way I kind of see it. Like it's a calling. And sometimes you are called away from your life to be able to fulfill that ministry. So it's beyond a hobby.
Yeah. And so you need to treat it like that.
That's right.
And it's so important that there's an equal exchange of energy, because I'm telling you, when I'm sitting there at someone's labor and it's dragging on and I'm saying, I'm missing my son's first day of kindergarten for this. They feel
there needs to be some reciprocity.
Yes.
And it's never going to be equal because of what is happening and what you're giving and what you're receiving. But as far as a business, there needs to be, I understand. So that's why you train with Kira.
Yes. Yes.
So this is going to wrap up. And you know what? I dig it. I'm digging the time. And Zoom, let us do it. I appreciate it. I'm going to play the music. Let me cue that up. Let me turn it up.
Thank you so much for having me, Kimberly. I'm so glad our mutual friend put us in contact.
I know. This is amazing. So again, I'll let you know the date. So when we do the actual gathering, I want to do some type of a Zoom round table to talk about what's happening now, because the manual's being written and we're going into a new normal with things, right? So I would love for you to be a part of that if you're available.
Thank you.
And that's this episode of Dish with the Doulas with Kira Kimble. And I'm Kimberly Stewart-Lucas. Thank you for joining us. If you have any questions for either one of us, you can put them in the comments. I'll make sure that Kira sees them if they're for her. If they're for me, I'll answer them. And share the episode. If you know someone that's expecting, if you know someone that's interested in being a doula, or if you know a doula who needs some additional training, right? They can come to you. So thank you again for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.